Okay, welcome back to the Deep Dive Discography. It is I, Marcus, coming at you with one of my signature show reviews, and I had the honor and the privilege. Check out this show over here. What we have is Revocation with Krisiun, Alluvial, and it's supposed to be a band called Inoculation, but they actually had to drop the tour. I'm not too sure why that is. So they were replaced by a local opener called Temple of Night. And Temple of Night is from the St. Catharines, Ontario area, and they kind of play, I guess you would say, war metal, black metal. So they kind of opened up the show. I imagine it probably wasn't what the lineup had in mind, but it's what they had available to them with such a last second dropping from Inoculation. So yeah, Temple of Night, honestly, not really my thing, but I think they put on a pretty good show, all things considered. You understand, like, I'm not like a war metal, black metal guy, so that was never for me to begin with, but it was cool. They all, like, wore robes and stuff like that. They all played really tight. It's just like a style of metal that just, for me, doesn't really get my rocks off or anything like that. They had like keyboard parts and they had a female singer, so she like laid some vocals down too. So there was a nice dynamic and everything. And I think like they played some cliches of that genre pretty well, and it was very competent performance. Yeah, I think it was an okay way to open up the show, even if it wasn't exactly what I had in mind. And then next up was Alluvial, which this was actually their first Canadian show, to my understanding. And my God, this band is so sick. I've actually never really got into them until I saw them live. I obviously checked out some of the recordings when I noticed they were getting a lot of hype, and it didn't really win me over. I thought this is really good, but I'm just not really in the mood for it right now. But seeing it live, holy crap, this material lands super well. For the uninitiated, Alluvial, I guess you could probably call them groovy prog metal or death metal rather. They have a lot of elements of kind of like modern tech death stuff, but they have a lot of like groovy kind of style breakdowns and stuff like that. The vocalist, he was awesome. He was really energetic live, and that's something that really won me over right away. Was his energy and his stage presence was just really, really engaging as an audience member. And some of the better photos I took that night were of him because he was just so entertaining. And I would be remiss not to mention that Wes Hotch is the guitar player for this band, which I actually had no idea. The last time I saw Wes play, I'm pretty sure was like 2011 era Faceless. So it's been quite a while since I've seen him play, and my God, man, the guy still brings it. His performance was super tight. He laid down some really, really awesome, tasty solos. Everything was there. Like, Alluvial is a really good example of how to make that kind of proggy death metal sound really, really energetic and really entertaining. And that's what I like about them and that's actually why I don't really listen to prog death in general these days. I find a lot of it not to be very exciting, but I think Alluvial has a lot of fun. I didn't feel like their music was drenched in self-seriousness and stuff like that. So actually seeing them perform this stuff like totally won me over. And when I went back to their recordings, particularly their newest album, I was super impressed. I don't know their material very well yet. I'm kind of a newer fan, so I got a little ways to catch up, but I really liked what I heard, and seeing them play live is amazing. So I highly recommend you check them out, especially if you're Canadian, to kind of give them more incentive to come back to our country. Co-headliner, we had Krisiun. I didn't realize Krisiun was actually an older band because I never heard of them until actually the last couple of years when I noticed they were playing more shows around the Toronto area. And they've been getting some really good slots and stuff like that. Guys, Krisiun, not for me. Krisiun is kind of like what I would consider to be kind of standard death thrash kind of material. I think they're good, and I think they played really well, and they have a really good sound considering only a three-piece. The bass player is also the vocalist, and they have a guitar player and a drummer. Very simple lineup. And, like, they played really well. I didn't know any of the material, honestly. That was my first real exposure. I remember trying to listen to material leading up to the show, and I wasn't really sold on it. I think Krisiun's a really good example of a band that a lot of people like, but it's just really not for me. Now, to be fair, I'm not the biggest death thrash kind of guy in general. That's not really my favorite flavor of metal. But, Krisiun, my issue with their sound is I just feel like they're not a band that generates hooks. Like, there weren't any parts of their songs that I felt would draw in a new person unless you were like really into this genre. Like, I feel like Krisiun's the kind of band where it's like, if that's your thing, if that's your bag, and you just want more of that kind of sound, then they're a pretty safe bet and they'll probably win you over. But if you're trying to get into this style, it's probably not going to do it for you. If you're not familiar with their music, like I said, they're kind of death thrash. So think like old Sepultura, obviously a bit more modern because they play with 7-string guitars. They have a bit of a morbid angel vibe at times, which I thought was kind of cool. Really wanky, shreddy guitar solos, and I can kind of take it or leave it. But yeah, there's a lot of elements to their music that I just didn't find overly interesting, albeit none of it was bad. Obviously, they're a very seasoned band, and you can tell, they performed really well. They're very tight. A little statue-esque on stage. So like I said, unless you're really into this style, this genre, or this band, you might not be super crazy about it. But I mean, hey, if that's your thing, then, knock yourself out. I know a lot of people are really hyped up on their music right now, so awesome to see them come over. I'm pretty sure they're from Brazil, so it's really great to see that they're able to tour in Canada, and I wish them the best, and I hope they continue to come back because there's definitely a audience for that kind of music in our neck of the woods. But last, certainly not least, the headliner, Revocation. Holy crap, dude. I haven't seen Revocation play since, I don't know, probably 2011 or 12. I'm pretty sure they did like a summer slaughter or, something like that around then. That was the last time I saw them play. Dude, I've been missing out, honestly. Like, Revocation, I actually forgot how stupid good this band is. And I think they're a really consistent band, but I think generally speaking, they're kind of on an upward trajectory. Every album is just a little bit better than the one that preceded it. And I think, Netherheavens, that is one hell of an album. Holy crap, dude. Like, I actually just listened to it for the first time in full today, and I realized how much of their set list was actually material from the new album. So we actually caught them the day that the album came out, which was on September 9th. So we heard the live debut of a lot of these songs, and yeah, dude, the crowd was into it. It won me over. It won everyone else over. Like, this is peak Revocation, honestly. I really enjoy how this band has progressed, and I think as far as whatever they really are, this is the best as it gets. David Davidson, probably one of the greatest guitar players of our generation. On second guitar, they had a fellow named Noah Young, who was the bass player of Skeletal Remains, and I believe he plays another band called Aura. And he did an excellent job. The guy can play super well. He fit right in within that dynamic. The set list of Revocation was mostly their new album. I think the first 7 or 8 songs of that set list were actually straight up just from the album. I don't think they played them in order, if I'm being honest, but I need to listen to the album a bit more. So they also played some other songs too. They played the outer ones. Obviously, they did Dismantle the Dictator. They finished off with An Unworldly Origin. Dude, it was amazing. Probably one of the tightest, most entertaining bands in the metal genre, and it's just really awesome to see them flourish and continue to get better and better as time goes on. I was thoroughly impressed. One weird choice about this entire concert was Revocation was the only band of a professional light show. This was at Lee's Palace in Toronto, and they do have the capacity for that kind of thing. So everyone else has played with really neutral, just flat stage lights. And then Revocation comes on, they have lasers and strobes and smoke machine. It was really impressive. And it really kind of sold the whole thing to see them play in this room that was constantly changing colors and stuff like that. And did the thing where it's the lights would sometimes synchronize with the color scheme of the album they're playing songs from. I think my only complaint would be about the Revocation list. I don't really think they played any material from Deathless. I could be wrong about that. A lot happened that night, and obviously I was busy taking photos. But that's obviously a classic album. It's an album that I like a lot, and a lot of people like a lot. It would have been nice to hear some songs from that, but I understand that because Netherheavens just came out, they want to play the shit out of that album, and as they should. Netherheavens might actually be my favorite Revocation release. I know the show's review is just kind of turning into a Revocation retrospective, but the album is really, really good. All the elements from all the previous Revocation albums have really been summarized ever so nicely on this one. I think it's amazing to see how this band has matured. I really love how David plays on 7 strings because I love that sound, and I think for them it's a really good way of expanding the formula. The guitar solos are always on point. The drumming is always bombastic. Just everything about Revocation is just peak. And seeing them at the show, knowing that these guys are getting a little bit older and they still got it. The thing about Revocation is, like I said earlier, they're incredibly consistent. And I think this concert was a testament to their consistency and their professionalism as a band. Revocation, I don't want to hype them up too much, but they're probably one of the best metal acts that I think are around today. They certainly have mass appeal, that's for sure. They appeal to a lot of people of a lot of different genre tastes within metal, and I think that's fantastic. I couldn't say enough good things about them right now. I'm really hyped up on this. I think if you have the opportunity to see them, you will do yourself a huge favor. Never mind what you think about the other bands. Listen to them on your own time. You're going to have your own conclusion, but I think if we're being honest, the star of this tour will always have to be Revocation because their energy just can't be beat. Their showmanship cannot be beat. Their live presence is impeccable. I really do think they're one of the greatest metal bands of this generation, and I love seeing them glow up the way they have in recent times. And it's amazing to see Alluvial because they're a really new band. They came and bring the thunder too. So for my money, this show was worth it for Revocation and Alluvial alone. Say what you will about Krisiun, not for me, but I'm sure other of showgoers will love their stuff. I'm not sure what they're going to do for the opening slot for the rest of the tour. I'm going to assume it's going to be opening local bands, so depending on your geography, that might be a great thing or a terrible thing. I don't know. But this Revocation tour, it's a no-brainer, guys. I think you got to go to this one. And those are my thoughts. Please check it out.